Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Bannon or Airspeed Prime here. I'm the site super moderator for Avatar: The Last Airbender Online.com, and I'm here today to present to you the 5th edition of Airspeed Discusses. And before getting to the topic, I'm just going to do my usual kind of Avatar news, site news, and channel news, basically update. And basically there just hasn't been any Avatar news recently, so straight into kind of my channel news. I got no video responses to the last Airspeed Discusses as well, which is disappointing. And just to say that the reason, the kind of main aim of these is to kind of start a discussion, sort of like a forum through video responses, in that I start the topic, like say I started a thread on the forum, and then people respond to that thread topic through video responses. It's kind of better than the forum in a way, in that you can see the person's opinion better because you can see them speaking and stuff like that. The second thing to say about my channel is that if you have a topic that you would like me to discuss for Airspeed Discusses, feel free to say in the comments, recommend a topic to me in the comments, or just like PM it to me, or tell me on the site Avatar: The Last Airbender Online.com. The second thing will be site news. As I mentioned in the last video, Avatar: The Last Airbender Online will be getting a site update in the next week or so. And with that, myself and the site administrator Jordan have decided to finally get the idea for a podcast that I've had for a while kind of up and running over the next kind of few weeks. It's been like a year and a half since I kind of first came up with the idea of a podcast for the site. I've tried and failed a few times to like get one going. I just couldn't organise it to be on Skype at the same time. But I think we're finally going to get it kind of going this time with the site update. And just so you know, the name of the podcast is going to be the Avatar Online Podcast. It's going to be just a kind of general Avatar podcast about Korra, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Avatar: The Last Airbender, maybe even some movie stuff, and of course comics. And you know, the online bit is just to kind of reference the name of the site, Avatar: The Last Airbender Online.com. So that is all that news. Now on to my topic this week, which is a slightly controversial topic among Avatar fans, and that is of course my thoughts on The Last Airbender. Well, my thoughts I don't think are controversial, but people seem to either really, a lot of fans seem to really hate this movie, and I guess the best way to start off is just to say that I tried to record this video a few days ago, and it went on for about an hour because I didn't have anything, the topics kind of planned out. But this time I have a kind of list of topics in order, so it kind of flows a bit better. And I'm just going to kind of follow that to make this video kind of more straight to the point and less kind of me waffling on a bit. The first thing is my general thoughts on The Last Airbender. And they are basically, I like the movie. I will never ever say that this is an amazing movie. I will never say that this lives up to the show in any way, really. What I think about this movie is that I don't think it deserves a lot of the hate, pure hate and criticism that it got from critics and fans alike. Basically, I think this is a good action movie because that was what it was always built to be. It was never going to be the kind of masterpiece of a TV show that the show was. It was always billed as a kind of summer action blockbuster. People would come to see it for the special effects, fight scenes and stuff like that, and that was it. And I think in that way, the movie did, for me anyway, I liked it that way. I guess moving straight on to my kind of more in-depth thoughts. The first main topic I have is criticism about the movie that I don't think is sort of warranted, or kind of is not quite correct to say about the movie. The first of which is just the fact that The Last Airbender is actually a different continuity from the show. Now, if you do not know what continuity is, think about stuff like, if any of you know Transformers, you will know that there is the kind of original 1984 show and movie, 1986, and there's also stuff like the Michael Bay film, and then there's stuff like Transformers Animated, Transformers Armada, and stuff like that. They are all different continuities of Transformers because as such, kind of none of them are really linked. Now, no one in the Transformers fandom complains about the Michael Bay movies for not being like G1, really, because they kind of follow the same story, but they do it in a different sort of slightly different way. They change things up a bit, and that is the exact same thing that is done with this movie, The Last Airbender, compared to Avatar: The Last Airbender, in that it follows the same basic story, changed a bit in that stuff like Southern Comet is 3 years away. Aang and his friends don't find out about the comet. They haven't found out about it yet. They don't know about it in The Last Airbender. Stuff like the basic point of this being different continuity is, in that way, it is not kind of correct for people to say that I do not like the movie because it is not the same as the show. People saying that they do not like movie Aang because he is not upbeat and stuff like the show. I don't think it's really fair to say that kind of like the show bit, because they are different characters. Movie Aang is not show Aang. And I loved the fact that The Last Airbender tried something different. It didn't do what it did perfectly, but I thought it makes it more interesting, because you get to see things in a sort of different way than the show. You don't know what's going to happen. So continuity, I think, is something not many fans seem to think about when they just go off hating on the movie. The second point is the format of book one is not very kind of conducive to a good film. Now, you look at the format of book one. It's 20 episodes of 22 minutes. So that's 440 minutes of Avatar TV show. That has to be kind of made into a kind of 90-minute movie. I'll talk about the length of the movie later, but even if the movie was 3 hours, the format still wouldn't work that well, because look at the way the episodes go in book one. There are some main kind of big kind of plot points in the series, like in the intro. There's the kind of 107, 108 spirit world thing that kind of introduces the main plot, and then there's the finale, really. They are the big plot points you need to hit, and the movie hits those fairly well, actually. Now, the main problem with the format of this is that there is kind of... Book one is quite episodic in that way for Avatar. I have no problem with it being that way, because it gives us great character development for the characters. But that is not very good for a movie when it has to adapt it in a way slightly differently, but it still has to hit some of those points. And because it is nearly a new town every episode in book one, it makes making a film of that very difficult, because the plot would just be hyperdrive throughout the whole thing if they were to go every single place. So in that sense, I think they did a decent job, given the kind of huge task that they had to cut some stuff from book one to make it into a film. And I thought that they did it well, managing to keep the main story of what book one is about, and having to learn waterbending, and then the kind of Zuko plot as well. Zuko was Zhao. So in that way, I think the format of book one, people don't often think about kind of troubles of writing this kind of making this movie. That kind of leads into the thing about the director and what I feel about kind of continuity again, kind of bring these 2 points together. I don't think any director could have made this movie in such a way that fans and critics alike would have loved the movie. Yes, I think another director probably could have done a better job, but like, how much better could they have done? I don't think it would have been that much. I think M. Night Shyamalan did a decent job, again, not great. I have problems with kind of some of the things he did in the movie too. But I like the fact that he went for something different, went for the different continuity and not the carbon copy thing, because my opinion on people kind of wanting the movie to be a kind of shot for shot live action adaptation of the show. One, it was never going to happen because like 440 minutes of show, at most, 180 minutes of movie, 3 hours. Secondly, I would not. I don't think I would enjoy the movie if it was just a kind of attempt at a shot for shot carbon copy of the show, because you know everything that's happening, and at that stage, why not just watch the show again? The show captured it perfectly. Live action is probably not going to suit Avatar as well as a show format. At that stage, why not just watch the show? What's the point in having live action and an animated show that are the exact same? That's kind of the thing. The fact that it is different makes the movie interesting to me, makes me like the movie continuity because it does things differently. I'll talk about that more in a minute. The next kind of big topic I want to talk about are my own criticisms of the movie. Again, I none of the stuff that I said previously kind of are my own criticisms. But the first one is kind of something I mentioned a bit, in the fact that the movie is only 94 or so minutes long, and that is not in any way long enough to even attempt to make the story of book one into a movie. I think this movie needed to be at least 2 hours. I said that they did a decent job at making book one story here, but if they had like that half an hour extra, they could have had those scenes that would have added so much to character development. Because the plot as it is really, really quickly. It just travels at a ferocious pace throughout the whole movie, pretty much. There are not many scenes where like Katara, Sokka and Aang can just kind of sit there and talk, have a character development scene like a kind of episode of a TV show would allow. So in that case, the extra half an hour, if they had it, or even like an hour and a half, making the movie 3 hours long, would have added so much character development, which is sort of the main thing that was missing from the movie. There wasn't a lot of character development. That said, the movie would have been 3 movies, or maybe 4, splitting book 3 into 2 movies. There would have been character development there, but I don't think book 1 kind of succeeded in giving us great character development. The second thing I want to say is that I said at the start, because it's different continuities, it's kind of not very correct to complain about the characters not being like the show, but you expect some parts of the character to kind of stay from show to movie. I think Aang, they kind of kept, they did it well in that he was the kind of show Aang previously when he was with the monks in the air before he found out he was the Avatar. But because of like running away, because of kind of he feels like he's let down the world, he feels he has to be more serious in that way. So I can understand Aang. Katara is pretty much the exact same as she is in the show, but Sokka, I think they didn't really do that well. I understand that they would need to take away kind of a good amount of that kind of humour to make him a kind of more believable character, but the fact that they took it pretty much all away is a bit too much. They need to make Sokka a bit more of a funny character, because that is sort of what he was for the show. And other than that, I think the kind of warrior, kind of protector of his sister thing was done quite well. My biggest problem with the movie is the script. Now, before I kind of get into M. Night Shyamalan, because he wrote the script, Mike O'Brien did assist on the script. As far as I'm aware, from what I've heard, it was they kind of approved the script, the kind of final script, or one of the final scripts before their involvement with the movie just kind of vanished. So I just want to kind of put that out there. The script is kind of it's okay in the fact that it, as I mentioned before, the kind of really difficult task that they had converting a a book one water that was a new episode, a new town every place into a good story, but the character development and a lot of the some of the lines that the actors had to say were not done very well, and I think a lot of that criticism has to be aimed at the script rather than the actors, because the actors just say pretty much what their lines are, and I think they acted those lines as well as they could have. Stuff in the script like the scene when Aang is kind of meditating in the spirit oasis and he just randomly comes out with the monks. Some monks can like meditate for 2 days straight. That was completely random and kind of took you out of the scene a bit. And then there was a few other scenes like that where a character would just say a really random thing, and again some of the scene selections were a bit odd, as well as stuff like making, instead of making kind of Roku the kind of spirit of the person, they made kind of Roku into, they combined Roku and Fang into the kind of dragon spirit thing. That wasn't great. I kind of wish they had stuck more to what actually happened there. But again, I'm not going to criticise it too much because I thought it was decent. Sorry about that. That's the third time I've been interrupted doing this video. Twice by my sister, once by my parents, and so I've just decided this time to, rather than starting completely again, just to use the last bit of footage I got. The last thing I stopped talking about was, I was just finishing up on the script. I honestly cannot remember where exactly I stopped. And then my final criticism, which is what the main topic I was on, is going to be, in my opinion, what the only negative thing that the movie has done to the fandom, and that is pretty much just that it has in a way made the fandom a more negative place in some cases, simply because of just the sheer amount of literal rage and anger about this movie. Like people on some forums saying like, if you like the movie you are not a true Avatar fan or something like that. Stuff like that. I think it's just completely out of order to like say just because you like the movie, which, as I've explained before already in this video, the movie's not that bad. So yeah, overly negative fan reaction I think is the only like bad thing that this movie has brought to the fandom, really. And the main problem with this is that it just means that with the show Avatar: The Last Airbender, there was really not that much negativity. Obviously there was a thing about shipping, and a few fans did not like the way season 3 went, but for the most part it wasn't really negative. But then super negative when the film came out, and it has sort of remained a little bit with some people's reaction to The Promise so far. Thankfully Korra looks to be pretty much positive all around, and I just hope that people can get over the fact that they don't like the movie, because it's pretty much gotten to a stage where you cannot bring up the movie on some fan sites. Thankfully Avatar: The Last Airbender online is really open, and you can actually have a conversation about the movie on the site. But other sites are not so much. You bring up a topic saying you like the movie, and all you're going to get is kind of negativity about your opinion, and that's pretty much it on my criticisms of the movie. Next I'm going to move on to my likes, and going off what I think the film did negatively towards the kind of show fandom, this movie has, in my opinion, done only positive things pretty much for the fandom and the show specifically. There's no negative impact on the movie towards the show as such, but in the fandom, the positive thing is that I think people like the premise for this movie, what it was about. Like, the concept of the four nations, the bending elements, and the concept of the avatar. I think people like that concept enough to kind of research, or at least kind of give the source material, the show, a chance. So, and I've seen a lot of people join up for Avatar: Last Airbender online.com, and in their introduce yourself topic, talk about how the kind of the movie either got them into Avatar in the first place, or kind of got them back interested in the show, having watched it when it first came out. And so that is the positive thing that this movie has brought to the fandom. It's brought a lot of fans brand new fans, into the show at a time when comics and core are starting to come out. So a great time to be a fan, and also has brought back loads of fans who sort of lost interest in Avatar when it ended, because there was like at that time nothing new coming. So that's it. My other likes more specifically about the movie are, I like the kind of sets, costumes, CG, basically the way they created the world of Avatar. I thought that was done very well, and I'll talk about that more kind of later in my next kind of big topic. And specifically, like, I think they managed to create like the kind of the clothing is kind of looks very kind of good, like the show. You captured that well. The kind of, you can tell the difference between the nations, different styles and stuff like that. The CG on the bending and stuff like Appa and the animals was done reasonably well, I think. Air was done great, water was done great, fire was done great. Don't think Earth was done that good, but it wasn't that big a part of the movie. Sets, yeah, they were great. I think if a Book 2 movie gets made, the sets and like that Bossing Say stuff will be great, and I'll talk more about that later. That's the topic. Most of the actors I thought did a good job, regardless of the whole race bending movement and the race of the actors. I will talk a little bit about that later. I don't really want to go into it, but I think it has to be addressed in this case. Noah Ringer as Aang, I thought did a good job with the character, the kind of different take on the character. He played Aang well. He did really well in the action scenes because he's good at martial arts. Dev Patel as Zuko and Nicola Peltz as Katara, I thought they were they were probably the two characters that were closest to their show counterparts. I thought they did it really well. Especially Dev managed to get the kind of complex nature of Zuko's character through, and Nicola Peltz got the kind of compassionate, kind of the Avatar giving her hope aspect of Katara's character through really well. And they both did quite okay in the bending kind of action scenes. And as I mentioned before, Jackson Rathbone did an okay job given the kind of not so great Sokka character in the movie. Seychelles Gabriella's Yue was good too. She wasn't really in the movie that much, but I thought she did an okay job. And I'm so happy that she has a chance to voice a character in Korra now. Kind of some positivity has come from the show. Someone has come from the movie into the show in that way. So I'm really excited to see what her character Asami will be like, and how good a voice actor she is. They're the main characters. I thought I'm not really going into much detail, but the guy who plays Zhao, he played a completely different Zhao, but I, for some reason, just really liked the take on that character that they did in the movie. He's kind of a slightly bizarre, just unique character. It was just kind of hilarious, yet awesome at the same time. The Zuko kind of Zhao competitive kind of nature of their relationship was done quite well, I think, too. Ozai and Iroh, Sean Tobe played Iroh, and he was he played Iroh quite well. Again, Iroh wasn't in the movie that much. Coming back to like the criticism of kind of like the script, there wasn't much room for character development that much, but Zuko Iroh relationship was good. Ozai, again, I like the way they kind of made him more of a character than the show does, which is interesting. Uh, and most of all, my biggest like would be the fact that this movie is different than the show. And stuff that I liked were the fact that, as far as I can remember from the movie, the gang, like Aang, Katara, Sokka, do not find out about the Sozon's Comet yet. Like, in this movie, they have not found out about Sozon's Comet. Which is really interesting about when they will find out about it. Is it just going to be a case of, in like the third movie, it's probably not going to get made at this stage, but it just appears when, just before the kind of big confrontation at the end. Um, Stuff like the different characters, like the way Aang in the movie, rather than him accepting his role as the Avatar, kind of halfway through book 2 in the show, he's still unsure about it at the end. You've got sort of got a certain confidence from Aang after the kind of the victory at the North Pole, but in this one, you know, the show ends with him, the kind of concerned look on his face after this victory at the North Pole. I like the way that they did Aang learning the waterbending very well, the way it kind of connects to emotion. They got the philosophy of waterbending very good in this. And then it made the kind of big finale bit of Aang making the giant tidal wave really good. And I like the way bending was done in this, because they kind of had to take a more realistic approach with it, where it actually takes a lot of manipulation of the elements rather than just like punch, fire comes out of the fist. Rather, there's kind of you get a sense that they kind of built up energy and released it in that way. And then the way that the better you are at the element, the kind of less manipulation it requires. Meaning that like big powerful moves, obviously even from masters, require kind of charging in a way, while simple moves for masters don't. And the way novice benders kind of require a lot of manipulation, even for like minor kind of manipulation of the elements. I thought that was kind of done well. Give us an insight into the kind of progress you make as you kind of become a better bender. We could see that with Aang. Kind of he struggled at first with it, but then when he kind of really gets into the fight, you see he kind of like cuts a path through those fire benders using air and water bending really kind of easily, and that was kind of seen there. Firebending was really interesting in that they needed a source. Most firebenders needed a source, and the fact that being able to create fire on your own was a big thing, making the fact that like Iroh knows it really well, and the fact that he is teaching Zuko even more important. And so that would be interesting to see how that kind of develops, especially with lightning, if it was introduced in a book 2 movie, should it ever be made. Other things I liked about the movie, because it was different, like, I suppose not much to say. Again, it's interesting. The reason I like it because it's different in that we do not know for sure what is going to happen. We know it has to hit these kind of big plot points, but in between those points we do not know kind of what's going to happen. So the fact that there is a bit of mystery related to the movie continuity is exciting, especially given some of the other story from the movie continuity, mainly the kind of Zuko prequel story about stuff like, instead of Piandao teaching Zuko in the show, it is the kind of red spirit who teaches Zuko how to use swords, in case he ever can't rely on his bending, which is an interesting thing. The way he goes to, I believe, the Eastern Air Temple and meets Guru Pathik and thinks that he is the Avatar because Guru Pathik is quite old. Meeting Fire Sage Shayu at I think one of the other air temples as well, and that is a kind of interesting thing that's different about the continuity. Now, I have 2 more topics. First one is, why I think a book 2 movie kind of would be good should be made. I suppose the first thing to say is I don't think it is going to be made at this stage, because they set it up as a kind of 3-year thing, and already it's been a year and a half since the movie was released, even longer since it was probably filmed, and I think unless it kind of starts production really soon, the characters are going to look too old by the end, should it, like, the other 2 movies get made. I think book 2 and 3, I guess, should be made into a movie, because I think the format of those is much more conducive to a better movie, especially book 2, because it's quite kind of plot heavy. Because what they have to do is basically, they can introduce Toph kind of early on in a book 2 movie, make finding her quite easy, because they haven't introduced Boomy into the movie. Then they can maybe hint at the Order of the White Lotus again with Zuko's side of the story. They can bring Azula in, and that conflict, now that Zhao is dead, as we know, and then make the most of the movie be Wan Shi Tong's library and the Ba Sing Se story plot, which I think that kind of a mystery, the conspiracy in Ba Sing Se, I think that would work so well as a movie. I think just that mystery, the stuff with Judy, the Dai Li, Long Feng, and then Azula's kind of coup at the end, and ending the movie with like Aang dying and being resurrected by Katara. That would work so well as a movie, I think, and I think if it was done reasonably well, I think it could like save the movie franchise, because it is such a well done storybook too. Again, coming back to my big thing about these movies, different. It's different than the shows. It's different stuff will happen, and that is why I think a book 2 and 3 movie kind of should be made, and why they would be good should they be made. And I suppose the last thing to mention is, I'm not going to talk about this too much because it is quite a sensitive topic, the whole race bending movement and what fans' opinions on the casting decisions of this movie. My opinion on this thing is basically that I just find it weird that this was the one movie to kind of start this whole thing. Because if you're complaining about this movie for the kind of race of the cast, you could pretty much complain about any movie for the race of the cast. I suppose at some stage you just need to accept kind of who was cast. Like, I thought the actors did a decent job, and M. Night Shyamalan has gone on record as saying that he just cast the kind of actors he thought fit the role. He didn't really care too much about race. He just, if the person was good for the role, he picked them. And there is a kind of that weird thing about it, where the fans' treatment of M. Night Shyamalan has also been quite bad. I'm kind of going off topic a bit here, but I think this is important to say too. The biggest thing that stood out to me about some fans' opinions of M. Night Shyamalan was, I run the Avatar Last Airbender Online Facebook page, and someone linked their Facebook page on our page, and the title was, why some like M. Night Shyamalan should be hanged for treason for crimes against the Avatar fandom. And obviously immediately I kind of responded to that. I left the kind of post up there and responded to it, saying just that I thought that was completely over the top thing to say, even if it was a joke. I just think that sort of treatment for someone who, he obviously put time into making this movie. M. Night Shyamalan is a fan. He wrote the foreword at the start of the art book, and I just think that it was just like an attack sort of on another fan of Avatar, regardless of like what he did to the movie. He did not try and make a bad movie, and back to the kind of race bending thing, just to say that I don't think it's really that big a deal. Just because in the show, or kind of and then a lot of the background stuff on the show, it is not stated as such that each nation is meant to be a certain race of humans. And again, the fact that it is a different continuity changes things a bit too. I kind of like M. Night Shyamalan's take on it in that he just decided to chose the actor that he thought was good for the job. And yeah, that is pretty much everything I have to say about the movie. Again, I just don't. I think a lot of fans get way too worked up about it. As you probably know from some of my episode commentaries that I've done, I don't. I think as fans of a kind of property, you should sort of be more accepting of kind of what it is, kind of be more open, simply because Avatar, the show when it came out, was something brand new. We gave that a chance. Yet a lot of fans are unwilling to give anything new a chance, as shown with the Promise comics, as shown with the movie. I just think a lot of people need to be kind of more open and just kind of calm down about the movie. Just be willing to kind of like discuss the movie and not just instantly go to hate it. And that is it. My opinion is that I like the movie. It was a good summer blockbuster. There are a lot of problems with it, but I don't think there's any need for that much hate on it. So that has been this video. Thank you. Video responses will be really interesting, especially on this topic, since I kind of feel strongly about the hate on this movie. And comments, replies in the thread on Avatar: The Last Airbender Online. So thank you and bye.